Wild Willy, a new concept in RC modeling. A dynamic and versatile stunt vehicle. Wheelies, jumps, spin turns, and jump turns are easy with this fun-filled vehicle.
All right, what I have here is a vintage Tamiya Wild Willy. This is an original kit that I had the opportunity to finish building. I didn't build it fresh out of the box. I purchased it on eBay. Someone started assembling it, never finished it, threw it up on eBay. I had the opportunity to finish about the last 30% build of the kit. I got the chassis finished. I was able to go ahead and get the body finished off. I can't tell you how excited I am to have one of these in the collection here. I got in the hobby in the late 80s. By then this kit was sort of being faded out. I never really had an opportunity to get one. And in more recent years, for those who collect and build, you know that Tamiya has re-released just about everything. But they did not release this exact kit. The Wild Willy 2 or the WRO2 is a complete standalone kit. Doesn't share any parts with this one other than the body, and even then there are some differences in the body. I'm not going to get into a big comparison between the WRO2 and this kit right now, but for the most part the body is the only thing these two kits share. So this is really neat. It's a neat opportunity to see one that hasn't been written, hasn't been restored, is taken right out of the box and put together, so you guys can see sort of what it would have been like in 1980, whatever, to throw one of these together. These came out in 82. Originally there was a short wheelbase kit. This is the long wheelbase kit. Short wheelbase kit being the more rare of the two. And you can tell right here by this open slot that supports the rear axles that this is the long wheelbase version. The short wheelbase just has a circle cut right here because this aluminum bracket is actually a little bit shorter. Real intricate kit. I'll take the body off here in a minute and wheels off and kind of show you guys the chassis as a whole. I have taken it out and run it. Not long. I just maybe put a couple minutes through it just to see it go out and run. And I did that using the original mechanical speed control, which I'll show you guys inside in a minute. But just take a look at this thing. This thing is neat. Real blast from the past here from the 80s. And like I said, for those of you who are big Tamiya collectors, you guys know what this is. You know what you're looking at. Very, very cool kit. Really, really overbuilt. A lot of metal in this kit. It weighs a ton. With the battery in it, it has some significant mass to it. It does pull wheelies right away, very similar to the WRO2. Tamiya used this chassis for several kits. I'm not going to get into all those right now. I just want to give you guys a good look at this thing. How often do you see a Wild Willy freshly built, unmolested, unrestored, just as it was? I'm very excited to have this thing in the collection. I'm gonna go ahead and take the body off. I'm gonna pop the wheels off. I'm gonna guys show you underneath this kit as a whole, show you how everything works together. I'm really excited to show off this kit. So give me a second. I'm gonna go ahead and take the body off and strip it down and give you guys an overview of what's underneath. So here you have it with the wheels off and the body off. And just to talk about the wheels for a minute, wheels are pretty neat. These are a 3-piece wheel. But one of the things unique here is these are foam filled. And, you know, foam filled tires are something that came out a lot later than this kit is sort of standard. And a lot of the Tamiya stuff from this era, if you built like a Midnight Pumpkin or, you know, a Clodbuster, they just had these air-filled tires. And this actually has a really firm piece of foam inside of it to get the tires a real good firm feel to them, much like a modern kit. Pretty neat. They got some weight to them too as well. And these wheels and tires were unique just to this kit. It's not something that shared parts with other kits. One of the things that makes these things so desirable is you just can't find anything for them, or just find a kit to begin with. I'll give a little walk around. Front suspension. If you've built a Hornet or a Grasshopper, you're going to be familiar with the front suspension. It's just a single A-arm on the bottom with a coilover spring, no dampening, and it has this rubber boot that covers up the spring, keep dust out. Not really unique, nothing exciting, just a real basic front suspension setup there. Going around the back, try to show you guys this. The rear axle, what do you guys, a live rear axle, solid axle, that's on these long arms right here. These arms kind of remind me of a clodbuster. If you built a clodbuster kit, it has this sort of two-piece over a metal ball that allows the axle to have some free swing and pivot to it. What's really unique is how this live axle in the back works. Let me hold this thing up. Your gearbox is split into two halves. You have the upper half here that has your pinion and spur gear, and that goes to another universal here that takes you to the lower half of the gearbox, which has the differential in it. And that's one thing that's really unique about this kit. This is Tamiya's first off-road kit that actually had a differential in the back. Everything up to this point was a solid rear axle. This is our first rear differential kit, and a lot of metal back here. And like I said, what you end up with is you have this funky live axle design. Just two springs, much like the front, no dampening, just a coilover. And if you can see this here, this front or this upper gearbox that has the pinion and spur gear in it, it's on a slot and it moves. It slides back and forth while keeping mesh on the motor, and then transfers power to the lower gearbox with the differential in it through that live axle, or excuse me, that differential gear back there. There's a lot going on here. Your motor's mounted up high. This is your 540 cam motor right here, has this shrink wrap on it. The pinion is actually permanently pressed on here, so even if you wanted to switch a motor out on these, you'd have to pry that pinion off. A lot of the modern pinions aren't going to mesh up just right. So yeah, really funky rear suspension design on this kit, and like I said, a lot of metal, a lot of cool metal in here. Just your spring dampened suspension. Your body post mount in this kit, they're mounted on springs as well. I guess when you flip over to keep that body from cracking, you got these spring mounted body mounts here. Let me go ahead and flip over the electronics tray, show you guys underneath, turn on the radio and turn on the power, and show you guys the very vintage electronics on this kit. All right, I got the radio box cover off. I've read online that Tamiya intended the electronics there to be waterproof. I'm thinking more splash proof, not submersible, but this will keep some of the moisture out, but there's enough openings to get water inside there. Very, very compact. I've never worked on a kit, especially with a mechanical speed control, that had this little space down inside. And this also runs on a hump pack battery. For those of you who remember the 80s, a lot of kits use these hump style packs. Can't really get these anymore. This is actually a receiver battery pack for a nitro kit that I just went ahead and put the Tamiya connectors on, but it works perfect. It's in there, 7.2 volt. It's a 3600 milliamp battery. And like I said, I did take this out and run it for a minute. And literally, when I say a minute, I mean it ran for a minute, and I was like, I'm good. Let's take the thing back in the house. Let me tilt it up and show you guys down the side. So what you have here is an over-under servo. This top servo here controls your steering, and it has an arm that connects to another arm that actually goes through a spring-loaded servo saver here in the front that you can adjust the tension on. Pretty neat. It's just sort of locked in here by that rub screw, and then underneath that is another servo double-sided taped in, and that servo is actually running to the wiper arm ESC right here. Now, no battery eliminator circuitry back then, so you had your 7.2 volt that ran the motor, and then you had to add a 4.8 volt battery pack to run the radio equipment. So you had two sets of batteries you had to mess with. We're pretty spoiled now using our electronic speed controls with the built-in BEC, and of course with our LiPo batteries and everything else. But you can see, let me get the antenna wire here out of the way. I had to lay there. There's an arm coming off the lower servo there that runs a metal arm over here to the wiper arm, and this is your 3-step forward, 3-step reverse Tamiya mechanical ESC. Mechanical speed control. And the way these worked was power from the battery went to these plates, and you had a first, second, and third speed. And at high speed, you were getting full voltage to the motor, and at your sort of low and medium speeds, it sent part of the power to the motor and then the other power to these ceramic resistors in the front. So the more you drove around at a low speed, the hotter these things got. And any of you folks from that era, remember, you burn yourself in these pretty good. Matter of fact, just a short little bit I ran around the yard, these things were cooking. They were pretty hot. I do have the radio gear hooked up. I'll show you the steering first. There's your steering right there, turning the front arms. And like I said, this just has a little nub on it that catches another arm that goes through that servo saver. And then underneath, here's your mechanical speed control. All right, there's your reverse and there's your forward. And you can see that little notch down there touches these different metal plates. And essentially you have your low speed, your medium speed, and your high speed all the way over. It doesn't look like a lot of movement, but it's actually touching different surfaces as it goes across. And then it has 3 speeds reverse as well. One of these things to worry about with these types of speed controls is there's a lot of little mechanisms in here, and if this thing gets stuck, the servo gets stuck on this arm, these things just run away from you. And all of us as kids back in the 80s had one of these things get away from us at some point. So you have your 2 servos running everything. You got your speed control and your steering, and that's running off this 4.8 volt battery pack. What I'll go ahead and do is hook up the battery, and I'll show you that mechanical speed control in motion. So our battery's hooked up now, and make it a little noisy. I don't want this thing rattling around. I'm gonna go ahead and just put that back on top there, and there you go. So you have your low speed. Set your forward, and then the same thing reverse. Old school, definitely 1980s. I am not going to put a modern speed control in here. This is a shelf queen. I mean, I might take it out just to show folks what it is, or someone who's enthusiastic about it, just to see it run through the yard. But man, this is it. This is your 1980s kit, and to be honest, I haven't really seen anybody on YouTube really give a full in-depth review or teardown on one of these, just to show you what's involved. And as you can see, if you've built a WR02 in any form, it's got nothing to do with this kit whatsoever. It is a completely different kit. And like I said, this thing's got some weight, it's got some mass to it. The bumper here is reminiscent of your WR02, sort of the same setup, but like I said, a lot of metal, a lot of cool metal parts. And once again, I'm completely blown away by this rear gearbox assembly here. Very neat. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the body back on for you guys, and do a little final wrap up. And man, I really appreciate you guys watching. This has been a really neat experience throwing this kit together. So here you go, I got the body back on, all put back together. I still have the radio on actually. I do not have the battery hooked up, so you got that mechanical speed control in there running. I failed to mention the wheelie bars earlier. If you built or messed with a WR02, has that nice fixed plastic wheelie bar with the little plastic wheel that spins in the back. Here it just has these 2 sort of coil sprung wheelie bars, and they work. Like I said, I took it outside and ran it. They do work. They do get the job done. I'm just excited to share it. All of us who grew up in the 80s, Tamiya fans, this is one of those sort of like holy grails to add to the collection. And I consider myself very lucky to get a basically new kit to build. To finish putting it together, and even then I took the kit apart, re-greased everything, threw it back together. I don't know how long this guy sat on this kit or how many hands it exchanged before it got to me, but it was nice to actually finish building it and seeing that it's been pretty much unmolested to this point. And maybe I'll paint it, or maybe I'll just get some of the body parts from the WRO2 and paint those and put them in there for display, and just leave the original stuff as it is. That's one nice thing, is the body parts, other than the actual core body, all this stuff you can swap out with the WRO2 for the most part. That's it. Maybe I'll do a video of it running for a minute, and you guys can see the kit run. Plenty of those videos on YouTube though. I just thought it would be neat to see a complete teardown, take a look underneath, see how the electronics work. You don't see a whole lot of that. Any questions, hit me up in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see what the next build's going to be.